Hey guys, my name is Laz and welcome to part 1 in the WALL-E modeling series. In this first part we're going to go through how to import our image planes, and then we're going to start blocking out our basic shape before we go ahead and add more detail. So the first thing you're going to have to do is download the references that I'm giving to you. Once you open that up, you should have 3 images in there. The back, front and side. You're probably not going to have to use the back one, only the front and the side, but I'll give you the back reference anyway. So once you have that, just come into Maya and we're going to set our new project. So if you come into File and go to your project window, we're going to have to just create a new project. So in here, if you just click new and type in WALL-E, HyPoly or whatever you want to call it, keep everything as it is, and then just click accept. I already made a folder for it, so I don't have to do it again. Now after you've done that, you're going to have to go to File and Set Project, and then just pick the folder that you created. So mine is called WALL-E, HyPoly, Model, Cgtuts Plus. So I will set that project, and then after we set our project, what we're going to have to do is just copy our reference images to that folder. So open up the folder where you downloaded it, select 3 of them, Control C to copy, and then if you find your Maya folder, it should be in your default library or wherever you put it, and then just go into projects and find the folder that we created, which is called WALL-E, HyPoly, Model, Cgtuts Plus. And once we go in here, we're going to have to go into source images, and in here you should only have one folder. So if you just go ahead and create a new folder and name it references, I already done that. And then in here, if you just copy in your images, as you can see, I already copied mine in right in there. So paste your images in there, and then after that, we should have everything set up for what we need it to be. So the way we're going to import our images is we can do it. There are different ways of doing it. I like to do it as an image plane into the camera. You can just create a surface, a plane, and then apply it to that as a material. The reason why we don't do it that way is because it can distort your images. So the way if you do it by importing a camera image plane, that way it's not going to distort your image. So that's what we're going to have to do. So if you just go into your side view, hopefully most of you know the very basics of navigating around already. If you don't, I'll try to go through that with you as well, but hopefully you guys got a very basic understanding of Maya, so you should be able to follow along. So we're going to have to go into our side view, so I'm just going to press down spacebar, Maya, and just go to my side view. And once I'm in there, I'm going to go to View, Image Plane, Import Image Plane, go to my references, pick Side, which is right here, open that up, and as you can tell, it opened it up. Now before we start moving this around, I'm just going to go to my front view. So again, spacebar, go to my front view, and then go to View, again, Import Image Plane, References, and Front. Now that I have that one open, I'm just going to go to my perspective view. And as you can tell, they're not exactly sitting on the grid, and they're not lined up very well either. So that's what we're going to have to do. Now if you notice in your outliner, so if you click on this, you can't select it in your side viewport. So if you go to your side viewport, you can't really select your image planes, neither move them around even if you select it. So let's say I select that, press W on my keyboard. As you can tell, we can't move it around. So what we're going to have to do is select, let's say, the front view. I'm going to go back to my front view. And I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. And then if you press Control A on your keyboard, or you can use these buttons up here as well. I like to use Control A. So I'm just going to press Control A. And then in here, as you can tell, we got a front shape, and at inputs we also got an image plane number 2. So if you click on that, you'll get all these settings for your image plane. Now what we're going to have to move around is the center X, center Y, and center Z. So I want to move this up, which is going to be on my Y axis. As you can tell, Y is green going up. So I'm going to pick center Y, and then if I just select the name and then hold down middle mouse button and drag, and as you can tell, I can move it around. So I'm just going to eyeball this and roughly sit it on the grid. Now once I got that, I'm just going to make sure that it's sitting right in the middle, and it seems like it roughly isn't, just a little bit. So I'm going to pick center X, hold down middle mouse, and I'm just going to drag it a little bit to make sure that it's sitting right in the middle. That looks roughly alright to me, maybe a little bit more, like so. Now after I got that, I'm going to go into my side view, select side in my outliner, and then again I'm going to go to input, image plane, and I'm just going to move around again. So make sure I got center Y selected, click on the name, make sure it's highlighted, and now I'm just going to hold down middle mouse button and drag it onto the grid. And hopefully it's sitting roughly on the grid. Now the next thing I want to do is, obviously I sort of want to move this to the side so it's out of the way. So again, I'm going to select side view, go to image plane, and I want to move this in center X, probably about -20. And as you can tell now, it's out of the way. And I'm going to select my front shape again, pick center Z, I think it's going to be. Right here, type in -20, and there we go. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, just to make sure that they're sitting exactly on the grid, I'm going to go back to my side view again, and let's see, there's the black line which is the middle, so I'm going to select the side again, go to image plane, select my center Y, and I'm just going to move it down to about right there. Alright, so now that I got that, I'm going to go to my front view, make sure that this one's sitting on the grid as well, and it seems like to me it is sitting on the grid perfectly. So now that we've got our image plane set up, we're going to create a new layer. If you don't have this window, that's because you're not in the channel box, so press Ctrl A. So if you're in the attribute editor, press Ctrl A, and then it will go into your channel box. So we're just going to name this references, like so. And then in here, I'm just going to select both of them by holding down Control and clicking. Select, right click my layer and click on Add Selected Objects. After that, we're going to click on this box and set it to reference, and that way we can't accidentally select it or move it around, it will stay where it is. So that's lovely, we got our image plane set up. So now we can start modeling. Now the way we're going to do this is we're going to start blocking the main body out and so on. We're not going to go into too much detail yet. Block out the neck and the body just to make sure that we got the proportions right and it looks alright. And then after that, we're going to start adding in more detail and make it look really nice and high poly. Hopefully you should be able to follow me around, because you're going to use very basic techniques, so I'm not going to go into any very advanced techniques. So even if you're a complete beginner who this is aimed for, you should be able to follow along. So we're going to go into a side view and just going to come up here, and if you guys haven't modeled much, the first thing that we're going to learn is just to see the basic shapes in a model. That's what I found it hardest to do when I first started modeling, but after a while it comes naturally. So as you can tell, we got a box here, so that's a fairly easy shape. Don't worry about all these cuts and so on. So we're just going to go into, make sure you're in the polygons tab, go to polygons and select the box. So after we got that, we're just going to drag out as usual, like so. And then now we got drag to set height. So I'm just going to go into my front view and I'm just going to drag out roughly a size. As you can tell, we're in wireframe mode. So if we press 5 on the keyboard, then now it's back into the shaded mode, and I'm just going to move it right in the middle, like so. And also this icon right here is the X-ray view. So if I press that, as you can tell, you can see through our model, which is very handy. So after I got that, I'm just going to move around these vertices just very roughly. All right. So I'm just going to go into right click and go into my vertexes. And now I'm just going to select these bottom two verts and press R on my keyboard to scale it out. I'm going to press V just to move it up a little, just very roughly blocking it in. And again, these verts are roughly fine. So I'm going to go into my side view, make sure that everything is sitting all right there. And it seems to be, apart from this vert up here. So I'm just going to move this to the edge, about there. And I'm going to move this probably about here, because this one's going to be the highest one. And I'm also going to move this one to about roughly here. So now, as you can tell, we got the basic shape very roughly blocked in, and what we're going to do is we're going to start adding in just a little bit more detail. So if you go to the Edit Mesh tab and click that line, it will tear that off, and we're going to use our Insert Edge Loop tool right here. So if you click that Insert Edge Loop tool, and we're just going to start thinking about where we're going to need more edge loops. So we're obviously going to need one here. We're obviously going to need one here. We're probably going to need one here as well, because we're going to need a point here to drag that in. And we obviously going to need one here as well. So now that we got that, we're going to right click again, go to our vertices, and we're going to start moving around our points again. So I got my point, I'm going to drag this out here, and I got one more point here, I'm going to drag it out to about here. Now I'm going to go to my next point, which is here, and I'm just going to move this right to the side. This point is supposed to be sitting here, so I'm just going to move that. And it seems like to me that this needs to be in a little bit more further. Don't worry about this bit, we'll take care of that later. We're just trying to block out the basic shape for now. So I'm going to move this word. I'm going to move this one. That looks alright. And this one needs to go in just a little bit. Okay, so now that we've got the side view sorted, we're going to go into our front view. And again, we're going to start off by moving around the verts. So these two, I'm going to scale them inwards, just roughly. These two, going to scale them out a little bit. It seems like to me that these two are roughly alright. I might scale them in just a little bit. That looks right, and this bottom one needs to come in like so. Alright, so now we got our basic shape modeled in. We're going to come out of our X-ray view and just going to take a look at it in the perspective view. Alright, so now that we got this sorted, we're going to start blocking in probably the neck, going up to the head, and then we're going to start adding in the details in the eyes and so on, because there's not much point blocking that out too much. Before that, I'm just going to go to Edit, Delete All by Type, History. I'm also going to delete all by type non-deformer history, and this will make Maya a little bit faster. We're also going to make a save here. It's really important to start saving very often, because Maya tends to crash very often. So it's a good idea to save as often as you can. So we're going to start off by the neck. So go to our side view, and I'm just going to look at this shape. So what's the best shape to start with this one? It's obviously going to be a square probably. So I'm just going to click and drag a square here. I'm going to go to my front view just to see how thick I should make it. If I just zoom in a little bit more, that looks about right to me. And I'm just going to move it where it's supposed to be. I'm going to go back to my side view, go to X-ray view, and I'm going to select these two verts, press R on my keyboard, and I'm going to scale them in. Then obviously we're going to need an edge loop here, and go back to my vertices, scale out, And now we got that basic shape. Okay, so it might have looked complicated. Oh my god, what shape is that? Well, it was a square with an extrusion or whatsoever. I'm going to go to my front view, go to object mode, and I'm just going to duplicate this. So select your object, Control D, and we're just going to move it to the side, to the other side. So now that we've got those created, we're just going to name our objects so we know what's going on. So come to your outliner, select PQ1, which is going to be the main body. PQ2 is going to be that, I don't know, neck support. We'll name it that. You can name it whatever you want. Neck support 2. So once we got millions of objects in here, we know what we're doing. So now I'm looking at this shape, and this shape looks like to me like a cylinder, just turned the other way. So I'm just going to go to my front view and create a cylinder. So I'm going to grab a cylinder here, and I'm just going to drag out from the middle roughly the size that we need. Drag up to set height, so I'm going to go to my side view and drag roughly the height that I think it should be alright. So now that I got that, I obviously going to have to rotate this, press E on my keyboard, like so, and I'm just going to move it down to where it should be. Obviously this is a bit too big, so I'm going to scale it down, make sure it's sitting right at the end, and it seems like we're just going to have to rotate it a little bit more, and also we're going to have to scale it up a little bit more. Alright, so now that we got that cylinder sorted, we're gonna also delete the caps of this. So if you go to input cylinder 1, subdivision caps, we're gonna set that to 0. Subdivision axes, we could probably turn it up a little bit to about 30 so it looks nicer. So now that I got that, it seems like that this is just an extrusion of that, but it's scaled in. So if I just go back to my perspective view, select face, go back to my side view, press extrude. Now as you can tell, if we drag this, I'm going to start extruding. So I'm just going to pull this out to about here, press R on my keyboard, grab the middle, and we're just going to scale it in a tiny bit like so. Now I got some other reference images, and it seems like to me that this object right here is going to be a whole separate piece that is sitting inside this cylinder. Now for at the minute we're not going to worry about that, we'll come back to this later. We're just going to set a cylinder in here just so we know what's going on roughly. I'm going to go to my front view, set the height, and I'm just going to move it in here. So we're just going to block this out. We're not going to go crazy detail, we're just going to block this out so we know what's going on, and then there's obviously going to be a shape here later on. So next thing we're going to do is name this cylinder again, so main neck, and then this is going to be main neck 2 cylinder. And then we're going to start blocking in this shape, which is going to be, I think we're going to start with a box again. So if you just go to our cube and drag out like so, go to my front view just to set a height for it, or width. And obviously this bad boy going to have to be scaled out. Okay, go back to my side view, select vertex. Going to select this bottom one, and then I think we're going to extrude. So if we just select this face, go back to our side view, hit extrude, move it to about here. Now if you press G, then it will do the same again. So you're just going to press G and it will do that again. So now we're going to go into our X-ray view, select vertex, grab them points, pull it down, grab that point, pull it down, and voila, we got a neck. Next thing is obviously this is going to be a cylinder going up, and this is going to be a cylinder going up as well. So we're just going to make a cylinder in the top view. So I'm going to come into my top view, go into my cylinder mode, and just drag roughly something, it doesn't really matter. Go back into my side view, and we're going to drag this up where it should be, which it should be somewhere here. So now that we got that position, we're going to press R, scale it up. Maybe it should be a little bit higher as well. And again, go into inputs, polycylinder, subdivision caps, we don't need any, so set that to 0. Axes could be 30, just to make it smoother. Now, instead of creating a brand new cylinder to make this neck support, we're just going to duplicate this one, scale it in, and then scale it up like so. And this way, if we come out, we got our basic neck support done. Don't worry, this is not what our final model going to look like. This is just the blocking out stage, just so we get the proportion roughly right and make sure that our model is going to look right at the end. So now that we got our neck created and blocked out and our body blocked out, we're going to name our objects again. So I'm going to select my cube and going to name this main neck. I don't know what this is, part 3 is going to be neck top cylinder and neck top main cylinder. Okay, so now that we got this sorted, we're going to go through and start creating the head in high poly, because the proportions of that is going to be fairly easy to get right. Also, we've got the main body blocked out now, so we're going to create the head in high poly in the next part. So I hope you enjoy this part, and I'll see you guys in the next part.